Hey guys, welcome back. And now let's move into dynamic curves. So dynamic curves can be accessed by going to dynamics. And what we do here, this is part of hair already. I'm just gonna do a couple of curves. So I'm gonna do one right there, and I'm just gonna duplicate it and put it over here, and duplicate one more time and put it over here. So I got three curves. But the difference between all three is going to be the following. This guy under curves, rebuild curve, oops, edit curves, rebuild curve. So I'm going to give this guy, say 6, or let's make it 10. Apply. Or let's make it 6, yeah, apply. So it looks like that. And this guy, I'm going to tell it to have 20. Apply. Okay, so as you can see, delete the history, each curve has different resolution, if you want to think of it like that. Now, if you remember before, I said that that's important because that will define the foundation for how rigid or how soft dynamic curves will be. Okay, now a couple of basics about dynamic curves. Dynamic curves are made up of an original curve which drives a dynamic curve. Okay, the original guy is usually called the start. Okay, and let's change the color of this guy. I'll make this magenta. And this dynamic curve, it's usually called current. Okay, so you got this two. The original, which is called start, and the dynamic, which is called current. So if anybody's talking about a start curve, they're talking about the original. If anybody's talking about a current curve, they're talking about the dynamic. And there's sort of like a last one that's but that's more once we get into hair, but just I want to introduce it right now, which is called the rest curve. Alright, so that's sort of like the, I don't know, that you want to call it the end curve. What happens is that this current guy is driven by the original. Okay, so if you move the original, you're automatically moving the current. And this current has like a rest shape, and that's defined by this guy. Okay, but that's pretty much the foundation. Now, one more thing is the architecture. Never, ever, ever, ever touch the current. And I do not mean the current on a switch. Although, yeah, you can't touch that one because you're going to get electrocuted too, but I'm talking about the current curve, okay? Because that guy, you don't need to. He's going to change depending on the original, okay? So you only play with the original, and this guy will follow. So this guy is only for dynamic simulation, period. You always play with the original. Okay? Original, good. Current, bad. Okay? So, let's talk about dynamic curves. So, as you can see, I got curve 1, curve 2, and curve 3. And I'm going to open up the hypershade so you can see them right there. I'll delete that over there. Curve 1, curve 2, and curve 3. And now, if I come here to dynamics, hair Aha! We're not gonna make hair yet. We're actually just gonna go and we are going to convert. There we go. Make selected curves dynamic. I'm sorry, my eyes are tired. So as you can see, it's going to attach the curves and it's going to do an exact shape. So just reset settings. You don't want to change anything here. Make curves dynamic. And look, my curve 1, which was here, is now here. Ha! It made a hair system, it made a follicle, and it made a curve 4. This curve 4, which is under that hair system, that's the dynamic one. That's the one that's the one you don't want to play with. And this is the original one, or vice versa. Yeah, this is the original, that's the current. So look, if I press play, you can see a little bit happening, but not too much, right? Well, stuck a little bit. I'm just going to change a setting here. Just going to select the hair system, I'm sorry, the follicle, and open up the attribute. And this guy has what's called a lock length. So, or a point lock. The point lock right now is set to both ends. So if I just set it to the base, that means that, remember the start and the end curve? Well, now this will attach only to the start. So this guy is the original, this guy is the dynamic one. Keep that in mind. Original and dynamic. And I'm going to make the background black for a second. Look what happens here. The current curve, the dynamic one, is a light blue color, and that's a way of Maya telling you, look, here I am, don't touch me. Okay, so do not touch the current curve. Remember, what I'm doing right now, I'm touching it. That's bad. I don't want to touch it. Okay, because that will change depending on the settings on the original. So like if I delete this on the original, then the current one also changed. Now I don't have enough points for it to think, so I'm just gonna undo. But if we were to deform it, then that one's also deformed. So you can see it starts deformed. It's just coming to its rest, and its rest is not like that. Just gonna undo for a second. There we go. Okay, so that's what's happening there. Now I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. So hair, make select curves dynamic, and hair, make selected curves dynamic, and going to see what happens. So now you have a whole bunch of follicles and all stuff. One hair system, another hair system, another hair system. Although I could have done all of them to the same hair system if I had selected all to the same hair system, but that's fine. This is just an explanation. So I'm going to change this point lock to base, and I'm going to change this point lock to base. So now what I want you to see is what I was talking about, geometry. So now you can see that the more points they have, the softer they get. Okay? And what I was talking about, all this blue, they're the ones you don't want to touch. But these guys you can touch. And these guys, if they move, they drive the current curves. So if I'm just going to show you here, I'm going to go interactive playback. I'm going to move these original ones. I'm not touching the dynamic ones. I'm only touching the original ones. And the other guys are being driven by that. Okay? So keep that in mind. Now these are dynamic curves. Okay? The next part, we will start expanding on this, and we'll talk about hair itself.